Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Senator Joe Manchin is having a week. He's getting lambasted by the Democratic Party, being threatened with being primaried, and getting hit with hashtags like Manchin is a traitor, Manchin is a dino, and the always classy Manchin. Why, you may ask? Because he will not vote to remove the minority party's filibuster rights. Because of this, the Democratic Party will not be able to push through their agenda without some Republican support. And to be fair, the Republicans have not been known in recent years for having a strong desire to work with Democrats. So why shouldn't they? You guys can have that debate all you want, but I would remind you that the way the Republicans forced SCOTUS reps through was by eliminating the filibuster on SCOTUS appointees after the Democrats removed the filibuster for all other appointees when they were in power. Both moves, in my opinion, were wrong. Manchin has made the determination that he wasn't going to contribute to the landslide of partisan failure. So I want to make 3 small points for you to think about. 1, don't we want people to think for themselves? To me, it's absurd that we can't get Republicans to vote on Democrat bills and we can't get Democrats to vote on Republican bills. There are so many 50-50 votes on major things, it's embarrassing. I know the Founding Fathers aren't in vogue anymore, but ever read their letters back and forth? Even when they agreed on the result, they often disagreed on the why. The parties are representing that there are only 2 opinions in America, a Republican one and a Democrat one. Seems dumb. I'm a Massachusetts conservative. To me, a New York City far-left progressive and a Texas far-right conservative are the same crazy person playing for different teams. I really value people who are thinking and have different opinions from their own team, even if they aren't on my team. Those are patriots, not people who parrot what everyone else is saying. 2, Manchin eliminating the filibuster would intensify the war that is brewing in this country. We need to be more reasonable, not less. How things are right now are as good as they ever have been in human history. More wealth, less hunger, more technology. Yes, there's plenty to improve upon, but no one else has really improved on it yet. So let's not throw everything away pretending that we need to fight each other right now to save the Union. Calm down and let's work through it. 3, if the Democrats get their way and Manchin is primaried for not being progressive enough, that seat's going to become a Republican one, and the Democrats will have effectively shot themselves in the foot in order to pass the purity test. Politics is not getting your way. That's what it is. We're supposed to argue and ultimately compromise forever, and the small changes we agree upon become the slight difference moving forward. It isn't supposed to be, my party is in charge, so f everyone else. It's supposed to be greater than that. Think about it. Or don't.
In military news, a raccoon successfully infiltrated the U.S. Army this week. Since raccoons are naturally disguised by their fur and look like they're wearing tiny masks, there's currently no way to identify this particular raccoon. After making his way onto the base, the raccoon headed over to a Bradley fighting vehicle and let himself in. I'm not sure what the goal of the raccoon was, but he was on a mission because even the soldiers working inside the vehicle didn't deter him. Video uploaded to the socials shows a couple of soldiers jumping out and running away from the vehicle while the raccoon peruses around inside. I mean, worst case scenario, it attacks you and you stab it or you shoot it, right? I mean, we had a raccoon in the warehouse a couple of years ago, and Nick slap-shotted that furry like Wayne Gretzky. Luckily for this raccoon, the soldiers didn't open fire, and after a minute of poking around and not finding anything worthwhile, he decided to head out. We don't know exactly where the raccoon snuck off to, but there is a small chance that after seeing how sneaky that raccoon was, he was snatched up by the military. They're going to start a trash panda army. Imagine thousands of them.
Courtney Olson, owner of Girl Clothing, had a very unique store opening this week. Generally, when you think about store openings, you might think about food trucks or live music or maybe even a C or B-list celebrity. But Courtney decided to go another route. Instead of the traditional bells and whistles, Courtney went ahead and broke the world record for the fastest time that 3 watermelons could be crushed between your thighs. Very specific and very terrifying. She crushed the 3 melons in 7.8 seconds, beating the previous record holder, Ukrainian strongwoman Olga Leshchuk. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say if you are a woman from the Ukraine, your name is either Svetlana, Gretchen, or Olga, And if you are a dude, your name is Boris or Vladimir. This is a huge flex move on Kourtney's part, not only because she's showing that she's a successful businesswoman by opening a new store, but she's showing a crowd of people that she could kill 3 of them in under 10 seconds by one of the weirdest ways to die possible. Girl Clothing is a female-based clothing company focused on body positivity and clothing created for all types of women, and has sponsored athletes including former UFC strawweight champion Weili Zhang. It's nice to see a company today that is trying to be as inclusive as they can be to everyone except watermelons. It seems like they really hate watermelons. Many people were on site to witness Kourtney's record-breaking feat, but someone who was there and incredibly proud of her was her husband. Kourtney's husband, who is definitely not scared for his life and wasn't forced to say this by his wife on threat of her exploding his head in between her thighs, told reporters he couldn't be more proud of his wife and to please not explode his head.
House Representative Ilhan Ohmar came under fire this week from fellow Democrats over a mean tweet. I know, right? The irony. In her tweet, she compared the U.S. as being as guilty of unthinkable atrocities as the Taliban and Hamas. Naturally, people were pissed. California Representative Brad Sherman responded that the more newsworthy part of the statement was that Ohmar finally admitted that Hamas is guilty of unthinkable atrocities. This isn't the first time Ohmar has made supremely unpatriotic remarks, as in her comment on the events of 9/11 stating, "Some people did something." I'm sure nothing will come of this beyond a few mid-page headlines, and journalists in the media aren't known for going after politicians for tweets that make crazy statements.
The chaos continues in Myanmar as deposed leader Suu Kyi has been charged with corruption by the country's military junta, among other charges ranging from accepting bribes to the illegal possession of walkie-talkies. Punishable by death, of course. The trial for the charges is expected to kick off June 14th and wrap up around the 26th of July. The junta has continually stated that it overthrew the government because it was corrupt and against the will of the people. However, since seizing control, the people have pretty much been pissed. The junta is responsible at this point for some 850 deaths after killing protesters who have been working tirelessly against the coup. Kind of a billboard of a sign that maybe it's not the will of the people, maybe you're just assholes.
This week, a 28-year-old Frenchman named Damien asked a question to the French President Macron. That question, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap! Terrell was arrested this week for slapping the crap out of Macron at a meet and greet outside in France. The French courts reportedly expedited Terrell's sentencing, and he's been given 4 months in prison with a 13-month suspended sentence. Terrell insisted that the attack was not premeditated and was just a symptom of his disgust with Macron and the current state of France. He shouted, "Mon suis Saint-Denis," which is apparently an old battle cry from centuries back, and "Abat la Macronie," meaning "down with Macroni," an affectionate name the people who hate Macron have given him.
The controversial Keystone XL pipeline has officially been declared KO'd. In the ongoing battle between crude oil and jobs versus environmental concerns, both sides have stated important reasons for keeping or killing the pipeline. And both sides stand adamantly with their principles. This week, however, Biden has officially put the kibosh on the Keystone. Canadian President Trudeau is reportedly not happy with this, and his constituency says he hasn't been tough enough on Biden. Rivals of Biden have highlighted the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline as an example of how Biden is killing jobs, not creating them. Pro-Biden supporters and environmentalists have praised Biden for sticking to his environmental policies. They view the move as reducing our reliance on fossil fuels in the hopes of moving towards cleaner energy. The Native American tribes on whose land the pipeline was to cross were also happy, stating they were worried that a pipe break would pollute the Missouri River. On Montana's Fort Belknap Reservation, Tribal President Andy Work Jr. stated that a catastrophic event like that would be Missouriable. When it comes to the subject of the canceled pipeline, he's oil about it.
In Christly news, retired nun Mary Margaret Krupa, who has the most nunny name of all time, has agreed to plead guilty for stealing over $800,000 from the Catholic elementary school she was a principal at. Shame! Mary is 79 years old, so I'm guessing she agreed to plead guilty since she started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Gotta make good with Jesus before you go meet him. But who am I to judge? That's Jesus' job. Maybe Mary needed this money throughout the years to feed a small orphanage, or maybe she was funding a small school for children, teaching golden retrievers how to be service dogs. Nope. Doubling down on her less than Catholic ways, Mary was stealing the money to fund her gambling addiction. I can't imagine heading to the casino and seeing Sister Margaret going crazy on quarter slots, or walking around the gas station and watching her sling some dice. I guess Margaret must have also had an online shopping addiction, because she said the reason she was stealing and gambling all that money was to pay off her credit cards. She has an amazing collection of porcelain baby angels. While employed at the school as a principal, Margaret's job was to collect donations and manage the bank accounts of the school. During financial audits of the school, she would instruct employees to cast paperwork into the fiery pits of hell. When Margaret heard her sentence was going to be 40 years in prison, she was none too happy about it. Prison is a tough place, Margaret. If you can't get your hands on a shiv, you can always whip up some nunchucks. I'm not sure what has to be wrong with someone to steal almost $1 million from a school, but that's really none of my business.
A standoff between police and the Baltimore gang leader ended Tuesday when the gang leader took his own life. 39-year-old Gary Creek from Baltimore, Maryland, fired shots at U.S. Marshals and an FBI SWAT team as they were trying to bring him in after being indicted in connection with 18 killings, 27 attempted killings, and the distribution of heroin, fentanyl, crack cocaine, marijuana, and other controlled substances. Creek founded the gang CCC, which apparently stands for Cruddy Conniving Crackballs, in 2015. In 2000. Fucking A, back it up. Do the whole thing over again. Actually, I think I got, well, I don't know.
You got it.
39-year-old Gary Creek of Baltimore, 39-year-old Gary Creek of Baltimore, Maryland, fired shots at U.S. Marshals and an FBI SWAT team just for fun as they were trying to bring him in after being indicted in connection with 18 killings, 27 attempted killings, and the distribution of heroin, fentanyl, crack cocaine, marijuana, and other controlled substances. Creek founded the gang CCC, which apparently stands for Cruddy Conniving Crackballs, in 2015. According to authorities, Creek had hostages with him who were his girlfriend and 2 young children. After a standoff of a few hours, police entered the home finding Creek had expired from a gunshot wound to the head. It seemed Gary was downed by the creek.
We want to say farewell to one of the goodest boys and a huge Ranger Up fan, Damien Bender, a sweet 14-year-old dog owned by Adam Bender. Damien was a great dog who loved car rides and snuggling with Adam's granddaughter, Paisley Lynn. Damien, you were the best boy, and the Benders were lucky to have a dog as great as you for the last 14 years. We here at BNN salute and fair winds to the greatest doggo.
And finally, in Florida Man news, Florida man John Henry James found himself in a car chase with Indian River County Police this week. When it became clear it was a no-win situation, James attempted to flee the scene. The police gave chase and were in hot pursuit when James turned and hurled a 2-month-old kid at them. Because when the cops are hot on your tail, throwing kids at them is always the best solution. Police described the throw as an overhand fastball-like pitch. Thankfully, the police were unharmed. Thankfully, the police were unharmed by the flying toddler and caught the pass before taking the perp to the ground. Florida Man remains one of the most innovative crime enthusiasts in the US of A. And for that, we salute you, Florida Man. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and I hope you have a great weekend. As always, you can get 25% off at rangerup.com when you use the code BNN. And of course, you can visit Matt and I at our OnlyFans, Nick and Matt.